Okay. All right, it's a cold morning, so I'm keeping my socks on for now, but when we come up to standing, if you're wearing your socks as well, you might want to remove them just so you have a little more traction on your feet. So it's a standing practice week, and the theme of the week is full body awareness. And so one idea behind full body awareness is that it can be a clue that you're in a really good pose for yourself if you're feeling attention throughout your body. So conversely, if you're having attention kind of lingering in one area, or you're noticing all your effort is going to one place, that could be a sign that something's off. So today we're going to practice our standing poses seated first, because one of the ways that we can kind of become imbalanced in our poses is we worry about stability, and most of our effort goes into stability. So we're going to create a lot of stability with the standing poses in a seated way, and then we're going to use the chair when we come up to standing to still feel some stability and hopefully get a feeling of that full body awareness that really is a great feeling when you're in a pose. And so that's where we're headed. So we're going to start seated. All we need is a chair today and your mat. And so just take a little time arranging your seated position. You are going to try not to use the back of the chair. You're going to try to use your own effort to support your spine sitting up tall, and you're finding yourself aligning. Your feet should be right beneath your knees. Your shoulders should sit directly above the hips. The chest is lifted and spread. Think about the sternum like the shape of a kite. And you just want to kind of lift that kite up into the air, float the kite nice and high. Your skull is right above your spine. Your chin is simply level with the floor, so you're not tilting the head, you're just neutral neck, front and back of your neck. And then you're lengthening from your chin to the base of the skull. And then feel free to close your eyes and lower your gaze away from the brain, signaling the brain to become a bit more passive. And just begin by connecting with either the chair or the floor, wherever you're making contact, and just allowing these parts of your body to sink and settle and root down, letting the full weight of the sitting bones drop into the chair. The feet plant themselves into the floor. And even though the shoulders don't touch anything, you're going to let them drop as well, releasing down away from the ears. Your jaw, release your jaw, lower jaw unhinges. Let your tongue rest in the floor of the mouth. And then start to relax your abdomen if you feel any tightness there. Using the breath as a way to release tension. Sometimes just our attention moving into the parts of the body that we're investigating. Sometimes just the attention alone is enough to allow us to find more relaxation and to let go of tension. And with this ease in the body and with the support of everything touching the floor and the chair and releasing down, notice how the spine as a byproduct begins to feel lighter, to grow taller, to become more erect. And the energy of the spine has direct influence on the brain. We might sense ourselves showing up a little bit more fully. Maybe our awareness starts to heighten. Maybe we feel a little less dull or sluggish. I'm just taking a little bit more time here, maybe welcoming some sort of intention into your heart. That can be a nice way to give your practice some context. And if there's nothing coming forth, just allowing the heart to remain open. Joining your hands together in front of your heart. And on an exhale, bowing toward the heart. Release your hands, lift your head, and gently let your eyes come open. Welcome. So we're going to start warming up from seated. We'll do the 6 actions of the spine today in a fluid way, so moving with breath. First thing we're going to do is a false clap. So just lengthening the arms out to the sides, and you can have the wrists under the line of the shoulders, just to give the shoulders a little more relaxation. From a neutral position, you're going to draw the wrists back, the chest forward. This is inhale. Exhale, slowly move the hands toward each other. Belly button moves in toward the spine, chin drops down, and you're moving with your own breath. So inhale to open up. Exhale to come into that forward bend. Allowing the full expression of each side of the breath, but not staying any longer either. So really kind of tuning into your breath and letting your breath set the pace. Just 3 more complete inhale, exhale cycles. And last one, wherever you are, just finishing a cycle here. Go ahead and bring your hands to your legs somewhere, lift your head back to a neutral upright position. We're going to do lateral movement next. So this is kind of a 4-part for a single side. So it's inhale to raise the arm, exhale to lengthen to the side, inhale to come back out, and exhale to place the arm down. And then other side, inhale to raise the arm, exhale to lengthen to the side, inhale to come out, and exhale, bringing the arm down. So once you kind of have the movements, the choreography, the breath, you can go on into your own breathing rhythm. And really try to get into those exhales, remembering that they're oftentimes longer than we allow them to be. And make sure you're balancing the sitting bones so you don't feel like you're going to tip over. And again, the idea here is to really align your movements with your breath. Let your breath set the rhythm. Oftentimes when we're not doing yoga, the breath is just catching up with whatever it is we're doing with it. However the brain is behaving, the breath is just kind of secondary to that. So we're really letting the breath take the lead here. And just a couple more to each side. Remember, if you have shoulder issues, you don't have to do a fully raised arm. You can do an elbow in line with the shoulder if you need, like a goalpost arm. Okay, and I lost count, so let's just do 1 more to each side. So the body loves repetition. It's a nice way to work with getting deeper into your poses without doing those long sustained holds. Repetition is a nice way to kind of increase the mobility. So next time both arms are down, we're going to do our last but not least 2 actions, which are the twisting actions. We're not going to raise the arms fully today. So you just kind of keep your hands low. Inhale, sit up tall. Exhale, crossing the body with 1 arm to the opposite thigh, releasing the breath like you're wringing out a rag. Inhale to center, both hands on the chair next to your legs or hips. Exhale there. Good. Inhale, strong and tall. Exhale to the other side. Squeezing out 1 breath. Inhale, center. And exhale, release the breath. Inhale, sit up tall. Exhale, cross the body. Bring out 1 breath. Inhale, back to center. Exhale right there. Inhale right there. Okay, so you get the idea. Just 1 exhale to the sides. It's a little bit too fast to include turning the head, so don't worry about the completion of the twist. You can just keep your chin above your chest for these. You can really get into those exhales. So stay as long as you're able to eliminate the breath. We're going to do one more to each side. Wonderful. And once you're done with that last side, you can come back to center, release the breath. Good. So we're going to get into our modified standing poses in the seated position. So the first one we're going to explore is triangle pose. We're not going to worry too much about the legs. We're going to be focused on the arms. So you're going to be working with your chair kind of in a weird way. So actually make your legs kind of wider and whatever they need to do to stabilize you, because you're going to be lengthening to the side. What we're going to do is grab the chair leg with your right hand and the back of the chair somewhere with your left hand. So this is helpful because it helps us learn the action of rolling the shoulders back, even though passively your torso wants to kind of cave in and collapse to the floor. What you're doing is supporting your shoulders to sit back. You're doing another thing of trying to bring weight back to your left sitting bone, so you're not going to go cascading to the floor to the right. And then a final piece here is just in your mind's eye, connect the dots from the tailbone to the very top of your head. So you have one nice streaming flow of energy. So it's not just dropping the head. One thing we can fall into in triangle pose is forgetting that the head is really the exit point for the line of energy of the spine, and our heads collapse and the spinal energy has nowhere to go. So you're shooting that beautiful energy of your spine out to the top of the head. Okay, shoulders back. Try to keep your right side body long. Even here, this is still kind of some effort. And then you're going to help yourself out of it on an inhale, lifting through the top of your head. Like there's a big rope attached there. And then arranging your legs however you need. So you're stabilizing for second side. So we're going to have the low left hand and the higher right hand. And they're kind of hopefully both positioned back behind the line of the shoulders so that it's encouraging the chest to lift and spread, the shoulders to sit back. And then you're going to think about bringing some weight back to your right sitting bone, extending through the top of the head, maintaining some length to the left side body. Nice. These look good. And then on an in-breath, lifting yourself up. And we'll just come into a seated child's pose for a moment. So bring your knees together, arms on your lap or dangling freely. Let your head fall forward. Nice. And then slowly come up. So warrior two. This is a lateral pose, meaning our legs move to the sides of the body from the midline. So we're going to work with our seated gate pose to really train the hip rotation, to train the torso rotation, and to get that kind of under our belts before we take this pose up to standing. So your left leg is just going to be more passive, kind of sitting right in front of you, which of course is not the standing pose. But we're really focused on the right leg here. So put your right heel in line with your right knee. Attempt to put your right knee in line with your right hip, but for most of us, it's going to be a little bit more acute of an angle or kind of narrower than that. And you're going to bring your right hand inside your right knee and just kind of press back there. And as you press back, two things are happening. You're keeping your knee tracking with your toes, which is a good thing. And you're also helping your torso to rotate or resist away from the right side. We want to keep our shoulders and our hips like 4 even points facing the front of the room or the long edge of the mat. Okay, so this is barely the warrior two pose, but we're learning really good information in our bodies that will carry into that pose and make it show up really well. So just a few more breaths. I'm going to have you in a moment attempt to release the hand pressure from your inner knee without letting the knee droop toward the big toe side. So that's where you're going to have to really engage some effort. A couple ways to do this are to step more strongly into your pinky toe. And another way is just awareness, keeping your attention there. So as you release your hand from the inner knee, go ahead and stretch the arms out to each side. These are the warrior two arms. Don't let your torso turn to the right as you look over your right hand. So this pose really demands full body awareness because we get to look in one direction, but we need our attention really oscillating throughout the entire body. You need to be aware of the back arm that you can't see, the torso rotating away from the right rather than toward it, which is resisting what that suggestive gaze wants to do. You're aware of that knee that wants to track in. Okay, so a couple more breaths. Again, the wrist can be a little lower than shoulder line. If your arms are getting tired, lift the back arm a little, Linda. There you go. Yep, it was a little droopy. There you go. Good. And then go ahead and release your arms down. And you can soften that right hip and release the knee back kind of in front of the hip line. And we'll do left side. You might have different situation here because sometimes our hips are mismatched with their tension patterns. So do your best to align your heel in line with your knee and your knee as best you can in line with your hip to the side. We're going to pressurize that inner left knee here. Right leg is just kind of passively stepping forward. And you're just spending some time doing those two things. Opening the hip, keeping the knee tracking toward the small toe side and helping the torso rotate from left to right. Okay, so you're training that knee and hip to stay in place, to align. Once you have a good feeling that you can maintain the position your left knee is in, start to release the pressure, extend the arms, and then you're going to turn your gaze, look over your left fingertips, and just let your attention move throughout the body. Checking in on the knee. Have some awareness of where that back arm is in space. Keeping the hip points and the shoulder points all kind of squared forward. The rotation of the trunk. Wonderful. And go ahead and release the arms and step back into place. You can sit forward, take a little dangling child's pose, bring your knees together, use your arms as a spacer if you want, or let the arms dangle. Okay, and then gently roll up. So the last pose we're going to focus on today for standing poses is the side angle pose, which has the same legs as warrior two. So we're going to take that right knee out again. Again, your left leg, because it's really awkward to imitate the legs of these poses in a chair. So we're not going to get super obsessed with the left leg. It's just going to be doing what it needs to do to keep you on your chair. But you need to sit back far enough that you're going to be able to grab your front chair leg with your right arm. So the right arm is going to be to the inside of the right leg, and you're going to somewhere grab hold of your right chair leg. Hopefully your palm is facing out. That's going to help your shoulders stay kind of in a nice rotation back. Your other arm, you have options. Whatever is stabilizing, first of all, safety first and stability first. If you're able to grab part of the chair back with that arm, it will give you more of a feeling of the openness that you can achieve here. So kind of a few things to watch, because this pose is really a combination of triangle pose and warrior two. So you want to watch that you don't drop the crown of the head like we talked about with triangle. So connect the dots, tailbone to the crown. You want to keep the shoulders rolling back so your torso doesn't pitch toward the floor, which it wants to do. And you don't want to crush the right side body. So every time you breathe in, think about a lengthening process with the right side body, sorry. So you're lengthening that back out, even though it feels really squashed and kind of collapsed, grow it with every in-breath, grow it. Okay, so this is a really nice kind of imitation of a side angle pose in a chair. Good. So again, we want to kind of protect the space we've established. So use an inhale, lift through the top of your head like there's a big rope attached, and come up. Good, nice work. So other side, kind of shift on your chair. I have kind of my left buttock a little bit farther back in the chair, so I'm kind of sitting diagonally on my chair seat, but whatever really stabilizes you is best. So again, we're going to move that left arm to the inside of the leg. It's going to kind of make a connection there, and you're going to grab onto a chair leg for some stability and support, palm facing. So I'm kind of grabbing behind the chair leg, underhanded position, so that I can get my shoulder to rotate back. Options for the free right arm: you can take the hip, grab the chair, maybe grab the chair back, and you're going to start to create the side angle shape of the torso. So attempting to maintain length to the left side body, to connect the dots of the tailbone and crown, to keep the shoulders rolling back, to train the torso to sit farther back than it wants to. A few deep breaths. Try to add some weight to your right sitting bone, even though it's probably just grazing the chair. Even just the effort, even if you don't feel any weight come into your sitting bone, the effort is where it begins. So just imagining more weight there. The intention of more weight there. Good. One more big breath. And then the next time you breathe in, that's going to pull you up safely. Lift, 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 lift. You might even engage your stomach muscles to support your spine. And then you can sit back for one last, whatever version of child's pose feels good. So connecting directly with your chest and thighs, using the arms. Try to let your head hang freely. And I guess since I'm staring at my feet, this is when I'm going to pull my socks off. If you have socks, you might want to do the same. This is why we practice barefoot, because we need grip in our feet. So before we come up completely, we're going to do our chair pose, which is funny because usually in chair pose, you don't use a chair, and we're going to use a chair, but we're going to try to wean off the chair. So that's how we're going to practice the pose today. So we're going to start with our feet together. Some people bring a little space between the heels. We're looking for the second toes to align with the heels. So most of us have to kind of separate the heels a little bit. The knees together if you can. And then you're going to grab hold of the chair with your hands farther back than the shoulder line. And hopefully you can see my hands, that my palms are facing forward toward you, which again helps the shoulders sit back. So we don't want to curl up into a ball here. We're doing our best to keep our thighs level with the floor and attempt to get our chest more open, more upright. Okay, so once you have all of that, you can do whatever position works for your arms. You might do a full raised arm. You might do a letter V shape. You might drop the elbows and do more of a cactus or goalpost position. So on an exhalation, you're going to press into your feet, power up your legs, and see if you can just take any amount of weight out of your chair seat. So use your legs, reach through the fingernails, breathe. Don't forget to breathe when you're exerting. Keep your eyes relaxed. Anything you can soften. And you're really, it should be a high octane, powerful pose. One more inhale, and then exhale, rest. We get to do it again. So if you feel like you didn't have a chance to really show your stuff, you might on the second time around, just take a few breaths. And then as you're ready, get set up for that second attempt. Okay, so the feet are together, but that doesn't mean they're short and scrunched up. So expand the width between your toes, lengthen the heels back, lots of surface area, knees together. I forgot to mention in the last attempt, a little contraction at the pelvic floor. It's the same action we use to draw up or to withhold urine if we want to go there, but that's the same action. It's just a light little effort, and you're going to raise the arms to whatever position, step into your feet and your legs on an exhale. Just hold it there for 4 breaths, whatever you've got. Attempt to keep your gaze forward rather than down, and keep your head tracking with your spine. Don't throw your skull forward. 2 more breaths. Navel in, tailbone curling toward the front body. Good. Go ahead and rest. Bow the head. So that pose has 3 translations from the Sanskrit Uttanasana: fierce pose, chair pose, awkward pose. So it kind of depends on the day which one you choose to use for the translation. And now as you're ready, feel free to stand up. And we're going to come into our chair version of downward facing dog. So we're going to grab the edges of the front chair seat, and you're going to walk back, but the legs always remain upright. The torso and arms become diagonal. Your feet are as wide as the chair legs. Second toes in front of the heels. Your legs are as straight as you can make them, which might mean they're still bent. So bring your legs right underneath you, Katie. There you go. Pull the hips back. Think about your thigh bones pressing back, your shin bones pressing back. Tilt the pelvis forward like you're pouring something out the front rim, like you could hold pencils in your hip creases. Let your head gently pass through the space of the arms. There's no need to hold the head in position. Let the head fall through the space of the arms. Deepen your breaths. This is just a container for your breath. So we're going to do 5 good breaths here. Every time you exhale, plunging the shoulder blades toward the chest. If you feel saggy in the low back and like you're blasting open the abdomen, scoop the abdomen toward the back body. Create more balance in the body. And then go ahead and finish up an exhalation. Inhale, look forward and walk toward the chair so you're nice and close. So now we're going to do Uttanasana, which is different than Utkatasana. So this is forward folding pose. So you're nice and close to the chair. You can use your arms on the chair seat. You might stack up your fists and create a little pedestal for the top of your head or your forehead. Try to get your head down somehow. And if it just needs to dangle, that's fine too. And again, you're attempting to have your legs as straight as they can go. You're still pelvic tilting forward like you're pouring something out the front rim. Roll your sitting bones up to the ceiling. Widen the backs of your knees. Roll your inner knees back. Keep your feet balanced. Let the torso cascade down, down, down with the head pulling it down. The legs lifting up, up, up. So you should feel like a wave of energy from your feet and then down the torso and off the crown of the head. Okay. So come up to a half position where you're on long arms, your hands are in line with your shoulders. Step your left foot back and slightly turn the left toes out. So this is just one more preparatory pose we're going to do before we get into those 3 poses we did on the chair. So this is Parsvottanasana, which is a great way to stretch your legs. So you want your feet hip distance wide, even though they are not under your hip line. So they should roughly be as wide as your chair legs. Back foot toes are slightly turned out to the left edge of the mat. And then take a moment to roll your hips. The hips move like a steering wheel. If we move one side, the other side moves in the opposite direction. So roll your right outer hip back, which brings the left outer hip forward. This helps our hips square. Then squeeze the hips toward one another. And if you can't physically manually do that, then imagine it. Compact your hips to midline. Take a few breaths lengthening your nose out over the right leg. Even though you can't see your foot probably, imagine the nose drifting out beyond the big toe line. Imagine your torso, and if you were hovering above your body, would you see a banana shape Would you see a shortened right side body? If so, you have a little more work to do with the hip rotation. Try to get the sides of the torso even. Top of the in-breath, you're nice and long. Exhale, bow over the right leg, bending the elbows, coming down with the torso. Let the head hang freely. Keep your legs straight. And even here with the legs straight, you still might have a flaccid kneecap. So firm your thigh muscles, squeeze your thigh muscles. We want the legs straight, which is a different action than locking our knees out or hyperextending our knees. So squeezing your thigh muscles, stabilizing the kneecaps. One way you can test is if you were to grab your kneecap, it wouldn't wiggle or wobble around anywhere. It's firmly stabilized. We're going to do 5 more breaths here, really feeding the breath to the stretch, combing through the tension in the body with the breath. Think about all 10 toes, send lines forward through the toes, reach the toes forward. Little guy lines. Last 2 breaths. And after an exhalation, you're going to inhale back to that long arm position. Step more weight into your right foot, step the left foot forward, and you can transition the right foot back now for the second side. So again, we want to make sure we have width between the feet. We're not on a balance beam. If we're too narrow, we won't be able to align the hips. We won't be able to square the hips. So be wide enough with the hips. You're going to roll the outer left hip back, which carries the outer right hip forward. Squeeze the hips together. Steer your torso to align with the left leg. And then spend the next 3 breaths extending the length of the torso, like the nose is lengthening out beyond the big toe. The outer hip of the left side is rolling back. Cut it back. It's going to keep the side body long. Come to the top of the next in-breath. And then exhale, lengthen all that beautiful space you establish in your torso. Lengthen it toward the left leg. Bend the elbows. Come as low as you can. And spend the next 5 breaths just really feeding the breath to the opening you're holding in the body. It's a window open. You want to take this opportunity and breathe deeply. You have clear view of your right arch of your foot. Make sure there's a lift or a dome. If there isn't, try bringing more weight to the outer right foot. Last nice deep breath. On an inhale, you can start to lengthen back to your long arms. Step more fully into the left foot. Bring the right foot forward and come all the way up. And right where you're standing, you're going to come into mountain pose. So roll the shoulders back, the palms facing the outer hips or thighs. The thumbs, if you brought them to your outer hips or thighs, or meeting the centers of the outer hips and thighs. Tailbone moves in. Yeah, you guys look great. Balance your feet. Make a connection with the floor. So it's not like you're pasted to the floor. Give your feet little roots down into the floor. Kneecaps are lifted. The flesh of the buttocks rolls down. Midline of the buttocks moves forward. Your skull is floating perfectly above the spine. Close the eyes, drop the shoulders. And imagine you have those guy lines from your fingertips to the floor, and they're tight like guitar strings. So this Tadasana pose is really one of the fundamental poses that shows up in every other single standing pose. So if we can master Tadasana pose, we have really given all the other poses a big advantage. Good. Let your eyes blink open. You can shake the limbs if you need to kind of release the effort of the Tadasana pose. And we're going to use the chair behind us for triangle pose with the high part of the back of the chair facing us. So the chair is turned around. And so the chair can pretty much be centered behind you. We're going to step wide, as wide as you can. The right toes are going to be turning out to the right. The left toes are slightly turned into the right, about 15 to 45 degree angle. And your hips and your shoulders all stay squared up to the broad side of the mat. Take your hands to the back of the chair and just grab on somewhere. Hopefully the chair is close enough. You're not having to distort yourself to reach back and have the chair really right up to the body. So with the backhanded or underhanded position that gets the shoulders to rotate back, that's what we want. And then you're going to kind of recall what we did seated if you can. So right hand slides down a little bit more. We're starting to angle the trunk to the right. We're not obsessed with how deep this pose is today. This is not going to be our deepest version of triangle pose in the world, but this is going to be the stabilizing version so that we can feel that full body awareness. Oftentimes when we're working with balancing stuff, all of our attention pools to the balancing aspect, and then we kind of lose sight of the fine-tuning of the pose. So hopefully you have enough support that you can feel some space. You can feel the integrity of the alignment. You can feel your attention kind of oscillating throughout the body, not just sitting in one area. Just a few more breaths. Remember to connect the dots, tailbone to crown. Keep the right side body spacious. Every inhale, you're just going to kind of accordion the side body, inflate between the side ribs. And then use an inhale and the top of your head, lift, lift, lift on an inhale, come up. Exhale when you get there. And then you're going to pivot your feet. You can turn on the heels. So you're going to turn slightly in with the right foot. Well, actually, you have to turn a lot in from that 90-degree position. But you want the toes slightly facing to the left. Left toes directly to the left, so 90 degrees. Okay, make sure you have an intersection of your left heel to the right arch. You want to be in good position here. You're still grabbing the chair, palms facing forward, shoulders rotating back. Come to the top of an inhale, and then slide your left hand down the chair. The right hand can kind of shift to the left a little bit. It's going to stay high. The hands are keeping you integrity here. If we didn't have the hands there, what would happen is our torso would just start to lurch toward the floor. So we're keeping ourselves in really good alignment. And oftentimes when you do that, you're not in your deepest version, but usually the deepest version is distorted somehow. We've kind of exploited something in a lot of our deep poses. Legs are firm. Remember those flaccid kneecaps. So if you sense that you grabbed your kneecap and it would wobble around, squeeze your thighs. It's going to stabilize your legs. If you sense your feet are kind of scrunching up beneath you, widen them. You can do that while you're standing. Broaden the toe bases, broaden the ball mounds, increase the surface area. Good. Restore space to the left side body. Last 2 breaths. And then on an in-breath, you're going to lift through the crown. Tighten those stomach muscles. Keep your back nice and strong. And then turn your feet and heel toe walk yourself in until you're back in a mountain position. So mountain pose is a couple of things. It's a chance to test evidence of a progress. We can start to sense stability throughout a practice. It's a palate cleanser, so it kind of clears the slate for the next pose. And it's also a great way to sense the residue that a certain pose leaves behind. So standing in mountain to do all of those things. Feel your stability, cleanse the palate, sense the residue. Good. So warrior 2, same chair position. We're going to step wide. This time the knee bends. Still want that intersection of heel to arch. So if you were to draw a line, you would want to hit the heel to the arch. Toeing in with the left slightly. Perfect 90 degrees with the right. Remember that we worked with the knee tracking, it likes to droop in. So you might even give that signal, take your hand and just press the knee out. We're looking for the knee to align with the second toe. Just check on that. Grab the chair from behind, same position that we just used. Hands can be low, palms facing forward. You're encouraging shoulders to sit back. Gentle contraction to the pelvic floor so that your energy of your spine moves up. It doesn't fall to the floor, which it might do here if we didn't do that. And then try not to disturb anything as you send the arms out to the sides and turn the gaze to the right. See if you can bring the attention throughout the body. Also notice if your attention is pooling somewhere. So Katie, bend the knee. There you go. So if your attention's pooling somewhere, that's a clue. You might need to make an adjustment or modify or find support. We want to feel full body awareness. Rotate the torso from right to left to keep the hips and shoulders square. Maybe bring some extra weight to your pinky toe and the right foot. If you feel your knees starting to drift in. Good. Pushing into the right foot to straighten the leg. You can use the chair for stability if you need. We're going to pivot the feet and spin off the heels to transition to a 90-degree left foot, 15 to 45-degree right foot, right toes turn in toward the left. Take the knee above the ankle. Check on that alignment, the knee tracking with the toes. Take some time to revolve the trunk from left to right so you're not turning or spiraling the trunk. We have to keep the hips and shoulders square. Shoulders sit back. Chest is like, think about the kite, like the sternum like a kite. Float that kite. Nice. And then see if you can keep all of this. Float the arms up. Turn the gaze. Look over the left fingers. Let your attention wander around the body. Like the Mars rover, just kind of looking around, checking it out. See what you see. Maybe you hit some roadblocks. If our attention completely escapes us, that's another sign something's off. We're either overwhelmed, underwhelmed. Good. And now go ahead and push down through your left foot, straighten the leg, lower the arms back to the chair, and pivot your toes, heel toe, walk in, come back to mountain pose. Just standing in mountain. Put yourself in position. Close the eyes. Drop the shoulders. Imagine you're hanging from a coat hanger. Feel the lift of the spine, but everything to the periphery just descending gently toward the floor. Guide lines through the fingertips. Watch the breath. So the warrior poses are named as such because they are supposed to give us kind of an empowered feeling. And if you're not feeling that way, that's fine too, but just notice what is left over from the warrior two pose. Let your eyes blink open. So last but not least, we're going to do side angle pose with the chair. So it's very similar to the triangle pose and the warrior two pose if you mash them together, because we have the warrior two legs, we have the triangle torso and arms. So we're going to kind of put it all together, grand finale here. So we're going to start with the wide stance. Right toes turned out, left toes slightly turned in. We're going to bend the knee. Chair is in the same position behind us. Grab behind you, hold the chair. Okay. So first just feel established in the upright torso warrior two. And then we're going to start to pitch the torso to the right. So you're going to let your right hand slide down. Your left hand might shift up or over. Tailbone to crown. So when we did it in the chair, remember the arm was in front of the leg, which made it a little easier to keep that knee in check. Here you have to really magnetize the knee toward the small toe to not let it do its thing, to drift in. Good. A few more breaths. Try to grab the floor with the outer left foot. Restore the inner arch of the left foot. One more breath. You guys look great. And now push down through your right foot. Lift through the crown. Inhale, come up. And exhale when you get there. Pivot the feet. You can spin on the heels. Step into that warrior two upright torso position first. Shoulders back. That's great. Come to the top of an inhale. Exhale, you're going to let left hand slide down, right hand slip up and over, lengthening through the crown of your head. Focusing on where the knee is in space without the use of your vision. So we have to sharpen our proprioception here. Your torso back farther than it wants to be, which the arms are helping us do. Keep the left side body spacious. Every in-breath, lengthen the left side body. Keep engaging the outer right foot down to the floor. Lift the inner arch. It's going to give you a little bit more power in the legs. And then stepping deeper into left foot, lifting through the crown of the head. Inhale, come up. Pivot your toes. And heel toe walking until you are in a mountain stance. Shoulders in line with hips. So the beauty of this pose is as we repeat it throughout a practice, the effort dial just goes down and down and down. We can sense our bodies spontaneously falling into wise actions. We sense when we're in alignment what it does to the breath and to the mind. We find stability, which of course translates into mental stability. It's the whole process of yoga. So before we move back to seated, we're going to take wide standing forward bend, which is very quieting for the nervous system. So now the chair is going to move in front of us so we can use the seat. And we're going to step wide with our feet. So make sure you have traction. You're on your mat. And for wide standing forward bend, the toes are in front of the heels. If we don't do any efforts there, we end up knock-kneed usually, which is not a good thing. So we have to find a way to turn the knees to face the toes without pivoting the toes. So think about your inner thighs rolling forward, your outer thighs rolling back. You can manually kind of assist your thighs if you need to kind of give them a little information. You can roll the thighs from inner thighs to the outer thighs. Try to have your knees looking toward the toes rather than at each other. And then you're going to tip the pelvic bowl forward like you're pouring something out. You can take this is really choose your own adventure. So some people like to push that chair forward and have a long torso and let the head hang. Other people like to have it close and use their arms or their hands for support for the head. So make it your own. Make it feel as passive as you can, as supportive as you can, as quieting as you can. We want to keep the hips on the same plane as the heels. So one way to know that you're doing that is to make sure the feet remain balanced. If you're all in the heels, you can be sure your hips are too far back. And if you're all in the toes, you can be sure your hips are too far forward. So centralize the weight over the feet. Keep the legs as straight as you can. Breathe deeply. Roll the sitting bones up away from the backs of the knees. Think about holding pencils in your hip creases. The legs are like your stems, and then you have that beautiful cascading wave of energy of your torso and skull. Just another 30 seconds. On an inhale, you're going to start to lift your head. Use the chair for support as you bring your torso part way up. Move the feet together. And then you can find your way back to sitting in your chair. We're going to do some gentle movements for the neck and shoulders. This time of year, we get so congested in this area because we're trying to stay warm and we're hunching and we're contracting all the muscles in the neck, tightening the shoulders. So the first thing we're going to do is just sit back. Feel free to use the back of the chair for support. Hands resting on your thighs, and lower your chin toward your chest, but also keep your chest lifted, like that idea of the kite of the sternum. And you're just going to let your either ear roll toward the same side shoulder. And just spend a little time there, a couple breaths. Elongating that nice open other side of your neck. Inviting the breath to sweep through. And on an exhale, gently bring the chin back down to the chest and inhale to the other side. And again, just pause, breathe. And come back to center and lift the head. And now we're going to roll the shoulders. So we're gonna make a square shape first. So scrunch your shoulders way up to the ears, push them forward, drop them down, and slide them back. And you might make another square shape straight up, forward, down, and back. And eventually you're just gonna start to smooth out the corners until you have this more smooth pattern, maybe like an ellipse or a circle. And you're gonna go slow enough that you can really, like I call it like the a sweeping arm clock. You kind of want to move in that way, very kind of slowly, deliberately, evenly. And the next time your shoulders are down and back, we're going to reverse how we're doing this. So you'll lift them up, scrunch them up, push them back now, down, and forward. And again, up, back, down, and forward. And then I just start to smooth it out. Big, even, slow, smooth circles. Next time your shoulders are down and back, you're going to leave them there. And now sit forward on your chair. We're going to take the left arm and cross that left arm to the outer right thigh. And then you're going to take your right hand to the back of the chair. So this is a seated forward fold twist. You're going to use the arm against your leg to help you bring that left side body around. You're attempting to roll your right shoulder back. And then inhale, lift through the top of the head and bring yourself upright. Between sides, we're going to do a wide seated forward fold. So step your feet wide, slide far enough back on your chair that you have good purchase of your buttocks and your sitting bones on the chair. And you're going to sit forward. You might simply just let the arms come down. You might prefer to grab the chair legs. So you can do either one. Let your head hang. Your toes can be turned out here. And now start to step your hands one at a time onto your thighs. You're going to bring yourself up, push down on your thighs. Keep your feet wide, keep your knees wide. We're going to lock out one arm. Let's start with the right arm. So you're locking it out, you're extending the elbow joint. You're going to bring the right shoulder down to the middle space. The left arm is just kind of passively standing by. Push on the inner right knee or thigh, wherever the hand is. Maybe feel some awareness and sensation in your right lower back. Keep dipping that shoulder in nice and low. Couple deep breaths. And on an inhale, lengthen up, all the way up. Second side, we're going to lock out the elbow. The inner elbow hopefully faces forward, pressing on the inner left knee or thigh. You're going to passively let the right arm do its thing. Drop the left shoulder toward the floor. You might feel this in your left hip, your left lower back. You might be more in the upper back, the shoulder. It's different for everyone, but apply some deeper breaths. After an exhalation, inhale up, all the way up. And you can bring your knees back together. And we'll take the right arm out and bring the forearm to the outer left thigh. Left hand onto your chair back. And then you're going to leverage twisting in a forward bent way by pressing the arm against the leg, revolving the torso to the left, deepening your breaths. Good. And now inhale, come up. And last, before we just sit quietly for a minute, just one more thing for the shoulders. We're going to interlace our hands behind our backs. And then you're going to take both hands, like your fists, you're going to take it over to your left side body, which hopefully puts your right elbow in alignment with your right shoulder. We all have this kind of flapping left wing here. Pin the left wing back so it's out of sight. Try to sit up tall. Keep your skull above your spine. Take a few breaths into your right shoulder and imagine the flesh of the right shoulder revolving from the front of the right shoulder to the back of the right shoulder. Meanwhile, we're giving a little bit of pressure to the left kidney, which is good for the organ. See if you can release. Transition to your alternate interlocking fingers. That means the other pinky is loose. A little awkward for all of us. It's good to challenge those habits in the body. And then you're going to try to take both hands over to the right side body. Make a connection there. Pin the right elbow in so it's not flapping out in the breeze there. You're going to take it, tuck it back, so straight behind you. Roll the shoulders back, navel in, tailbone in, so you're not throwing yourself into a pooching belly sway back position. Skull above the spine. And just imagine the flesh of the left shoulder now revolving from the front of the shoulder to the back. And as you're ready, releasing, you can sit all the way back on your chair. Make sure your feet are right underneath your knees, your nice wide stance, hands close enough that your shoulders sit back, so you're not rounding the shoulders. And then the skull, of course, right above the spine. Just close the eyes and sit quietly. There's zero effort required here, except what it takes to keep yourself in that chair. So you're really trying to turn the dial down as far as you can. You're allowing the breath, you're allowing the body, you're allowing the brain. You're just noticing. You're not trying to control it. You're just observing, like everything is being thrown up onto an empty screen. You're just watching. Let's take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Let it go completely out through the nose again. Start to move your fingers and toes a little bit. Just waking up the body a little bit. And then we'll join the hands in front of the heart. Sit up tall. Relax your face. Let's take another deep breath in through the nose. And let it go. From the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me today. I'll be sending the video link out to you shortly, and I hope to see you again soon. Enjoy this blustery, wintry day.